What's up, you guys? It's MB Maniac, and today I'm going to be going over part 3 of my Western Conference standings predictions for the upcoming 2016-17 NBA season. If you missed part 2, the link to that video is in the description below. Now, today I'm going to be concluding the Western Conference by breaking down the top 5 seeds in the West. And these are the teams that are going to be looking to compete for a championship. And although we have one team in mind that will probably go to the finals and probably win the whole thing, you know, it's not like these other teams are just going to sit back and let that happen. I mean, this Western Conference is going to be super competitive in the top 4 and 5th seed. And even though my predictions are probably pretty similar to most of yours out there, I think I do have one team that's going to surprise a lot of people. So let's stop talking and just get right into this. Now, this team is pretty easy to say why I think they're going to be so high in the playoff picture, and that's this guy right here. Russell Westbrook is an absolute stud, and you just know that he is super pissed after KD left to the Warriors. You just know he's going to play with the rage that we've never even seen before. Coming off a season where he already averaged, I believe, 27, 7, and 10. This guy has the potential to average a triple-double. And while I don't think he'll actually average a triple-double like Oscar Robertson back in the day, he's going to get so close. I think his field goal percentage will actually go up because he doesn't have to think about that secondary option. I think he'll be able to play even more freely than he ever has as we look through the roster here. Steven Adams, he's a very good center. I think he's going to continue to improve. You know, he's just really big, you know, gets a lot of boards. He's good at finishing. You know, I think he's a perfect setup guy to have for Westbrook because that pick and roll game between them two I think is going to be really strong. Then they have Cantor, who is really bad at defense, but offensively there's no doubt he's skilled. He can shoot the mid-range and he's got a lot of nice post moves. And I think they're really going to use him as that secondary scoring option in OKC. The big change they made this year was trading away Serge Ibaka for Victor Oladipo, which I think they did because they thought, you know, if KD leaves, we should probably go younger just to set ourselves up for the future better, which they did, and I really like this trade. I think him and Westbrook are going to be one of the best backcourts in the NBA, and defensively, man, Oladipo is already really good at defense, as is Westbrook, so I think scoring on these two is going to be super tough, which is really good for them to have because the Western Conference has so many backcourts that they have to worry about. But Russell Westbrook alone could carry a team into the playoffs, I think, and he has enough good role players around him that he could push this team potentially even higher. You know, I have seen a lot of videos of people putting them as high as the 3rd seed. I don't think they're going to get that high because I just don't think they have any star power outside of Westbrook, but his season, you can look for him to have one of the most spectacular NBA seasons we have ever seen. Definitely going to be an MVP candidate, and I think he's just going to will them to that 5th seed, and man, I just can't wait to watch him play this year. At the 4th seed, I've got the LA Clippers. Now, this team is probably a little higher on most of your guys' rankings. I dropped them a couple seeds lower than usual because I just think this year we're really going to see this formula start to get tired. And we kind of alluded to it last year, and a lot of us thought that, you know, that this team might shake it up or trade someone or break it up or bring in someone new or just really do anything to kind of, you know, change the whole core of this team. But, you know, Doc's been pretty heavy in saying that he believes in this team and that he believes in they just haven't been healthy. And honestly, I like to believe that, but it's just been too long. And I think if this team was really going to be a championship contender, they would have made it to the Western Conference Finals by now. That's not to say that they're not going to be a good team. You know, they still have Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick, Jamal Crawford. I mean, those are 5 quality NBA players for sure. But the main problem I see with this team is their lack of small forward. Last year they had Paul Pierce, you know, he retired. They picked up Maurice Page, which was actually a really good signing, especially as a backup center because he's kind of the opposite of DeAndre Jordan. You know, he's not really going to play D, but he can get buckets. You know, that's why I call him Mo Buckets. So I think that'll offset with DeAndre nicely. Austin Rivers, he's pretty much said, I think, that he's going to be a solid backup point guard in the NBA. I don't know if he'll ever get to his starting position, but he actually played pretty decently for this team, so I think it's good that they kept him on. As we look through the roster, Brandon Bass, another solid veteran. Raymond Felton, I thought was a really good signing also, but this is the problem right here. They are starting Mbamute, quite the last name, at small forward, and I just don't think that that's enough. It's not like he's just an average small forward. While I'm not saying he's a scrub, he's definitely a below average starter in the NBA. And I just think that if the Clippers really wanted to get over the hump and compete with, the next 3 teams in the playoffs, they're going to have to upgrade this small forward position. Now, there's been a lot of trade rumors going on, so maybe they can snag someone at the deadline or something. And if that happens, I might have to change this up a little bit. But as of right now, I think this is a 4 seed team. At number 3, I've got the Portland Trail Blazers. And this is a team that I said I think is going to surprise a lot of people, as most of you guys probably have them maybe 1 or 2 seeds lower than this. But I do firmly believe that they're going to make a big jump this year. Now, the reason I think they're going to make such a big jump is because their best players are still so young, and they're coming off a season where they were already the 5th seed. If you remember, going into last year, I believe Vegas had them at over under 25 wins, and they just flew past that. And I don't think any of us, including myself, expected them to have the season they did. As we look through the roster, I mean, Damian Lillard, he's only 26 years old. He's still not in the prime of his career. CJ McCollum, the most improved player, he's probably going to be an all-star this year. He came out of nowhere, but he's also only 25. I mean, their core is so young, and I think we're not even going to see this team peak until a couple more years in the future, which is crazy to think about. I mean, their core is so young, I think they're not even going to peak this year. I still think they have a couple more years for improvement, which is the scary part as we keep looking through the rest of the roster. Al-Farouq Amino, very solid small forward. I like him. He's long, athletic. He can defend. He runs the floor. And he's improving that 3-point shot, which I think is really good because he didn't really seem to have that when he first came into the league. And this, I think, is one of the more underrated signings of the offseason. I know they paid him a little much, but I think it's worth it for their situation because now you bring in a veteran bench player who can do a little bit of everything. Evan Turner, when he was in Boston, I liked how he played. I thought he kind of just did the little bit of everything, which is exactly what this team needs off the bench. Ed Davis, really solid backup. I thought the Lakers should have kept him a couple years ago. He's not going to start, but I think he's a quality backup to have. He rebounds, he defends, another good bench player to have. They also got Festus Ezeli, who they got for pretty cheap. And that was smart because he does have injury problems, and I don't know if he'll be able to play a whole lot. But when he played for Golden State, he's still really young, and he looked like he could develop into a very solid NBA center. So we'll see how that one plays out. We can't really know for sure yet. They also got Allen Crabbe, and I think that this was a really smart signing because all this kid does is shoot, and that's what you need in this NBA. He's going to come off the bench. He's going to provide a lot of scoring for them, and I could even see them maybe sliding him into the starting 3 role because if you have Lillard, McCollum, and Crabbe, that's just a lot of perimeter weapons to defend, and it'll really open up the floor nicely. So it wouldn't surprise me if he actually ended up starting towards the end of the year. As of right now, man, this team is looking really nice, and I firmly believe they will end up at number 3. At number 2, I've got the San Antonio Spurs, which probably doesn't surprise many of you as this team is always near the top of the Western Conference, it seems. And last year, while everyone was caught up in Golden State going 73-9, people forget that this team was right on their heels up until the very end of the season, which is crazy. Now, some people have this team falling off actually because of the loss of Tim Duncan, but personally, I just don't see it happening, And while I do think Tim Duncan was amazing as a player, probably the best power forward of all time. Last year, I think, his impact on the court dropped significantly from years in the past. And it's not like they just signed some average center, They got another all-star caliber player to take his place. So I don't think that that's actually going to affect them on the court as much as some people might think, as I still think they're probably going to have a 60-plus win season as we take a look at the roster. Kawhi Leonard. Now, this young kid, I think, is probably my MVP for the upcoming season. because with Tim Duncan gone, it's like 100% official, man. Like, this is the face of the franchise. You know, he's going to be really motivated. I think he knows that a lot of people are going to be looking for him to improve this year, and I just think he's going to have a spectacular season. You know, he plays on both ends. I mean, just probably the best two-way player in basketball. As we look through the rest of the roster, LaMarcus Aldridge, we all know what he's about. He had a rough start, you know, with San Antonio, but I think he started to learn toward the end of the season. And while he did have a really crummy semifinals against the Thunder, I think that that's going to motivate him, and I just think he's going to come back and have another all-star season. So we can expect big things from Aldridge. And the big signing for them was Pau Gasol. I mean, not only is he an all-star caliber player, but he fits so seamlessly into the Spurs offense, I think, because he can shoot the mid-range, he can pass, and he can post up. And that's something Popovich always looks for. And those three things are going to work beautifully with Aldridge. I just think they're going to be so much to handle down low, having Aldridge and Gasol there. I mean, it's going to be kind of similar, I think, to what the Lakers used to do with Gasol and Bynum. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, how fast Aldridge and Gasol can develop that connection. And if they really start to click pretty early in the season, you know, this team could easily put up a 65-win season, you know. All right, so after Gasol, we've got Tony Parker. Now, he's definitely showing signs of getting older. Definitely not what he used to be, but I still think he's better than average point guard. I mean, just really quick, you know, knows that offense so well. And the big thing is Pop trusts him, so I think that they'll be fine at point guard position. If he can stay healthy, I don't think he'll have to put in as much offensive input as he used to anyway because of all the weapons they have now. So after Tony Parker, we've got Manu Ginobili, who's still a really solid bench player in my opinion. Yes, getting up there in age, definitely not what he used to be, but I think the main reason that he's important to them is he just hits big shots, which is going to be really important for them come playoff time. I don't think he'll play that much during the regular season anyway because of how Pop likes to restrict his older players' minutes, but look for him to be a big factor for them when it comes playoff time. Danny Green, you know, solid still, you know, 2013, he still set the NBA Finals record for most threes. Good wing shooter, solid defender. You know, he probably will start for them again, which I think is a good thing. Patty Mills, same kind of player actually. You know, just a really good defender, likes to shoot threes. I mean, just a Spurs kind of player. Kyle Anderson, he had a really surprising rookie season actually. I didn't think he was going to make any impact, and he played pretty well for them. David Lee, you know, another solid veteran signing, and I just think that this team's top players are so good that that's enough to propel them into the second seed. So at number one, we've got the Golden State Warriors, and yeah, I don't even know if I really need to keep talking because just this screenshot alone of the roster, it pretty much says anything I could say. And I'll go through it still, but man, this team is just so stacked. Stephen Curry, you know, coming off back-to-back MVP seasons. You know, they still got Draymond Green, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, does it all. You know, can average a triple-double. Klay Thompson, probably the second best shooter in NBA history, which is crazy to think they have the two best shooters ever on the same team. You know, 37 points in a quarter. I mean, not even in his prime. This kid is ridiculous. Andre Iguodala, man in the bench, you know, solid veteran, definitely been an all-star, and it's just kind of silly, man. I've already talked about how great all these guys are, and then I just kind of throw in Kevin Durant here at the end like it's nothing, but he is an absolute monster, and he just comes to this 73-9 team, a guy that can average 28 and 70 every night. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous, and I know a lot of people think out there that, you know, this team might not do as good as people think because of chemistry, or, you know, what if Durant decides that he needs the ball more? And honestly, I just don't see that happening. He went to the Warriors because he wanted to win rings, and that's why I don't see that as an issue. I've seen him play in preseason, and it just looks like that's how they're going to play, and they're just going to destroy most of the competition because they all play unselfish. They're all great shooters. They can all dribble, score, pass. I mean, I just can't describe how good I think this team actually is. The only thing that I think could stop this team from winning the championship and being first in the West is if they had injuries. But I think Steve Kerr learned last year that it's probably more important to rest these guys, for playoffs than to go after records. So I don't think they're going to break 73-9, but I definitely could see them winning 66, 67 games, with no problem. As we'll look through the rest of the roster, to finish this off. Sean Livingston, still a really good, solid backup point guard. His post game is nasty. I feel like I never see him miss a mid-range post. David West, really solid for a backup power forward. We know he's chasing the ring. He did the same thing last year in San Antonio. Anderson Varejao, another veteran trying to get that ring. Ian Clark is pretty decent. And then they have McCall, Looney, Jones, McAdoo. None of these guys are really important, but they're lucky because they get to go on this team. And, man, I got to be honest, I just don't think that there's any way this team isn't going to win the championship. I wish it was more competitive, but it's just this team has so much talent. They have 4 All-Stars in their starting 5. I just don't see anyone challenging them this year, to be honest. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up my Western Conference standings predictions for the upcoming NBA season. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this thing plays out, man. I think the Western Conference is going to be super interesting. And like I said earlier, it's going to be super tight, I think, other than the Warriors and the Spurs, because I think those two teams are, significantly better than the other teams in the Western Conference. And I will be starting the Eastern Conference breakdown, hopefully within a couple days, so you can look forward to that. As always, guys, any comments, disagreements, feedback you have for me, let me know in the comments section below. And as always, MB Maniac out.